Wow, hello, Planetary King.
Hello, Flavia.
Today
Welcome.
I'm doing my first interview in English with this self-existing dog, our friend Tim Tussing. I'm very glad to meeting him now because we have been contacted so many years since we were in the garden. He was working for the foundation. We exchanged many emails and many things happened, but I never saw him. And today is the first time I'm seeing him, and I'm seeing him through this camera. And this is our first gather. So thank you very much, Tim, to be here. Welcome. You are the first one I interview in English, and this is activating the electronic collective. And so say hello to the king.
Hello, Ken. It's my pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone. Anyone that cares to listen, I really appreciate it. Thank you, Flavia.
You're welcome. Well, the purpose of these interviews is to introduce the king one to the other and to contact all our stories, how we were connected the first time, how was our first moment when we found out our kin and when we got connected in this dream spell. So
okay.
I will ask you to tell us how was it your first moment, and then from there you tell us how it's was developing to today, because for all of us our story is very important, and it's also important to the other one because it's very similar, and this is the purpose of this, to connect to one another and then to find similarities in our stories,
right,
in our spell. Okay? So, go ahead.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'll try to keep it somewhat concise. It's not the end of the sun in Mexico in 1991. I had a particular interest in Mexico because I actually had some kind of feeling that there would be actually a UFO experience somewhere in Mexico during that eclipse. So I got down to the eclipse a couple of days before. I went to Oaxaca. I didn't know where to go in Mexico. I went to Oaxaca. I saw the eclipse at Montalban. I didn't see any UFOs or anything like that. I just saw planets lining up, nearly a 7-minute long eclipse, artificially speaking. And while I was there in Oaxaca, someone told me about Palenque. I knew nothing about the Maya. I only knew anything about the Maya because I was asking questions about Mexico and UFOs and things like that. People were making connections between UFOs and so when I found out Palenque, I took her word for it, went to Palenque, and then finally got outspoken and said, okay, why are all these people telling me about the Maya? What's the deal? And when I finally asked the question, I was in Maya Bell at Palenque. I asked the question. I pretty much determined recently, because I found my receipts at Sarah Bronson's house. And I think it was Cosmic 25, July 21st, Red Resonant Moon. That night, I said, what's the deal with the Maya and UFOs and these ruins? I think I called them ruins. And as soon as I asked that question, I was walking behind me, tapped me on my shoulder, summoned me to follow him, and we went into that little office at Maya Bell, and he looked like he had a really emotional day. He looked like he'd been crying or something. And the most important thing he said to me, it was only about a 5-minute talk. He basically said, you need to get this exam. That was my start. But that was July. That was July, Gregorian, Cosmic Moon, 1991, Cosmic 25. But I didn't open a single Jose Arguelles book until 1997, I think, 96 or 97. My mom bought me Surfers in like 94, 95. So I didn't actually start reading Jose's books until the late 90s. Started telling all my friends about it. And at this moment, all I knew, I was so excited because I was so interested in the purpose of the Maya on this planet to help us reconnect with the cycles of nature. And that alone excited me, but there was nothing about, as you know, there was nothing in the Maya Factor or Surfers. Those were the two books that I read in the 90s. there was nothing in there about the 13-month, 28-day calendar. So when my friends were back home, why don't you do an internet search? I don't even know if Google existed at the time. It was 2000, 2001. Said, go home and do an internet search and find someone who cares. Like kind of rudely, like find someone who cares because we don't care. And so I did. I went home and I typed in the Mayan factor as a search, and I got the World 13 Moon Calendar Change Peace Movement, and there was a phone number, and I called and I talked with Brian and Deborah Haight near Sandpoint, Idaho, who at the time were, I believe, the president and secretary of the Foundation for the Law of Time, to give Jose and Lloydine a break, so to speak, or to let them travel and do other things. So my initiation was through Brian and Deborah Haight, really. And I think that was like a really good way to learn, because those two know pretty much everything, almost everything. So they were, me was when Aurora, Self-Existing Seed, and at the time he went by Oneness. He later went by Metatron. Those two were traveling up and down the West Coast of the United States. They came to visit me and my fiance at the time in Olympia, no, near Olympia, Washington. No, near Chico, California. I'm sorry, we were in Chico, California, near there. And they taught me Telektonon. And then from there, after I learned Telektonon, I kind of knew that the basis was the 13-month, 28-day calendar and the prophecy. In 2002, I went to the 7-day seminar in Tepoztlan, the 7th of 7. That's when I first met Jose and Lloydine. And then I was in fairly frequent email contact with Jose in about 2003. And I remember one of the most important things I wanted to do something to do with the 91 eclipse that I went to. So I was in frequent email contact with him, kind of like every moon or so, until 2004. I knew that he and Red Queen were moving to Ashland, and I moved up to Ashland from Northern California, and I first became the bookkeeper for James Twyman's Beloved Community, who later that year, we fused a day at a time together, a 3-day day at a time. That's when we had the Rainbow Miracle and things like that. And before I knew it, I was the bookkeeper for the Beloved Community, and I was the treasurer for the Foundation for the Law of Time. So Jose and Red Queen, Votan and Red Queen, asked me to be the treasurer. And within that year, one of the primary purposes that Votan wanted me to achieve was to make the foundation a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I had to do all that. And then became the calendar change of 2004 was also the really big deal, which I have to say, that was Crystal Storm. And you and I almost had this interview on Crystal Storm. Yeah. When it was Blue Crystal Storm just the other day, it was 13 weeks till the solar eclipse this coming Crystal Seed year. It was a season, a 13-week season until the eclipse. And also that day, it was a galactic season until the end of the year, because it was 300 days completed in the year. So there was something interesting going on with this Crystal Storm thing and this quarter of a year and quarter of a galactic season. And I have to just make that note, because Crystal Storm year is when you and I think, were first meeting. Yeah. And that's when the whole calendar change thing was happening. So I was also the liaison for Planet Art between the Foundation and Planet Art Network. And I worked very closely with Jose, Red Queen, and Jacob and Sarah and myself. Were kind of like a 5-person group with running the foundation. I lasted for about 2 years, and then I became a school teacher. I stayed in the area. Votan wanted me to be the Pan USA coordinator, but instead I became a school teacher. I needed a job, a paying job, a 1260 job, I felt. And then I moved to Ohio. And I continue to teach the 13-month calendar, the 13 moon aspect, the 1328 aspect of it to people in universities, people around Ohio. I'm in the math department at the Ohio State University now, and I tell people there about it. And 13, I always hoped that in 2012 I would see Votan at Palenque. So I wasn't in touch with him, and I just trusted that in 2012, the closing of the cycle, I would see him again with Red Queen and Palenque. So that was very sad to me that I never spoke with him again, probably not after 2008 or so. And then in 2013 is when I went to the Mount Shasta Galactic Synchronization 2013 gathering. And that's when I met Jasmine Garcia. And I had this deep instinct about Jasmine that she would understand, or she already did understand, how important it is to teach the 13-month, 28-day aspect. So when I first met Jasmine, that's what I said to her. I think it was like one of the first things I ever said to her was, I think we need to talk about this. And Minas, I never know how to say his last name. We worked closely with Ruben. I actually met Ruben at the closing of the cycle in Palenque. And then one of the most momentous occurrences for me was when Jasmine, Ruben, myself, and Makua Ray gave a presentation at the United Nations with Wanique Shabazz and with, I forget her name, another woman that Wanique brought there from Atlanta. And the six of us gave a presentation at the United Nations. And my overall feeling there was bugging me was that we were talking about the 13-month, 20-day calendar, but we didn't have the calendar. And we didn't have an actual 13-month, 20-day calendar, except that when I worked for the foundation, one of the most important things I wanted to have done, one of the first things that I did was at the foundation for a long time, we had this simple 13-month, 28-day calendar, which was inspired to me. I have to share this with you.
Please.
That whole inspiration of the 1328 was really first inspired to me. My first inspiration that I received was at Nomasile at Brian and Deborah's home at the first, or maybe the second or third conference that they gave. A man named Paul Blakey came down from Canada, and everyone was in a circle on the top floor of their home at this conference, showing all of their art, showing, you name it, their different calendars or different experiences. And then all of a sudden, this man just dropped something that had no colors whatsoever, and it looked something like this. And when he put it in the center of the room, it just no glyphs or tones, there was a hush that fell over the room, and everybody was, and that I think affected me forevermore. Where when I first was working with the foundation, I wanted to make these cards, and we did. So they had these 1328 calendar on one side and the Gregorian on the other side. That's what ended up being in the first Cosmic History Chronicles, was that image where Jose said, this is your brain on natural time, and this is your brain on artificial time. Okay. So I was really happy to see that in the book. And really that just kind of became my focus, but I always want to make sure people know that, number one, remember my first interest was with the Maya. And it's not that I haven't lost interest in the Maya. And in fact, the Maya have a 13-month, 28-day calendar called Tun-Uk. And I still fully believe in the dream spell codes, leap day included. It doesn't really bother me. There's too much synchronicity there. So in Jasmine, and we just hope that people know that even though it's our primary focus, the 1328 aspect, that we still love giving galactic signatures, and we still fully believe in the dream spell codes. And I see it as the Chlam Balam dream spell codes that are very pure to me, even with the even with the leap day aspect included. So nothing has really changed. We just want to make sure that we teach the simple stuff first and make sure people really understand the basis and the Talettanon prophecy. And that to follow the 28-day cycle is really the most important aspect, in my opinion, because it's the foundation to establishing the connection between mind and body. That time is a mentally perceived phenomenon. And if we don't have a 28-day construct that we're mentally following, we have this bodily.
You're right. You are totally
That's pretty
right.
much
You are totally right. And then it's very, very important. And I'm very glad somebody's doing this, because people get so excited with the codes and the kin and the wave spell and oracles and forget the aspect that connects us to the biosphere, which is the 28 days. So this is, yes, the first thing we have to embody is the 13-month cycle. And then we can talk about something else. And so you're right. So it's very precious. It's very, very important, because once you have this chip, then you can enter with the codes. And this is just perfect. Oh, yeah. So now you and Jassy are going to, are doing this This material?
Well, we continue. You know how I said that we were at the United Nations and it was kind of eating me up inside that we didn't have a calendar. So we went into a process of creating it. Like Ruben might have been the first to say, I mean, to his credit, he might have been the first to say, hey, why don't we take this calendar with all of this text, which was really like, this text is like a combination of Wotan's words and Paul Blakey's words. It's probably like 75% Wotan and 25% Paul Blakey, if you will, maybe 80-20. And so I said, yeah, that's exactly what we should do. And so I went through this process where Route 25 in Mexico helped make a nice grid for each month, for each moon. And I started going through the text, and honestly, I'm still going. I found 2 typos in the text just last night. So we've printed some, but I'm about ready. I'm pretty much about done with the text. I'm just perfecting the text as best as I can. And now it looks like this. So the text has been changed and changed and changed. And this is the kind of, I don't know if you can see the 28-day month that we're looking at. It is a color calendar, so it's kind of expensive to print because I still wanted the colors for the seals. But as you can see, it's just a perpetual calendar. Perpetual meaning it doesn't even have the days of the week, so it's something that will be the same year after year after year. Yeah. And, it's going to take some getting used to. Part of what I wanted to put in there, this might be kind of like July and Cosmic are 4 days apart, that kind of thing. So it has sort of like little instructions on how you can help coordinate between the two, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Just a simple 1328 perpetual calendar. We had to have something printed like that. So there's some out there now that Ruben and Makua are more supportive of, that have the days of the week, the Gregorian days of the week, and they call that the transitional calendar, and it's pretty much the same as this one. And this one just doesn't have the Gregorian days of the week. It's pretty much the same thing.
But it can have...
This graphic is the sun and the moon.
It can have the Gregorian moon, month, and day, right?
Yeah, it has Gregorian dates.
Yeah.
Just not Sunday through Saturday.
Yeah, because it's changed. So it's not effective if you put something that changes every year and you want it to be forever. Yeah, I think it's
right.
Yeah, perfect. Wow, this is very good news. And today I'm going to interview Ruben also. So he's going to explain all this process about the campaign of the calendar change. And this is
I just want you to know I'm supporting that. There's a whole section I wrote about that 2020 referendum. So it's like there is this 2020 calendar change referendum that Ruben and Makua Ray are leading. And I think Jasmine and I are sort of like silently underneath going like, yeah, we fully support that, and so I wrote a piece in there about that. That's a really big deal. The main thing about that is that we're kind of asking for the Gregorian calendar world. And we're implement a +1 into their system, so that we have a one-to-one correspondence with the Gregorian days of the week as well. That would be like an initial phase 1 for true calendar change, because we're not saying that the world's going to drop the Gregorian calendar. What we're suggesting is that we begin to have this easy correspondence between the 12-month calendar and the 13-month calendar, and it would be easier if July 26th were always Sunday, not just always Dali. Were always Sunday as well. If Dali were always Sunday and Selly were always Monday, just try to imagine that. Then there would be this glue. Then the 12-month and the 13-month systems would start to glue together. And that's the only way I think that real calendar change would happen. Yeah. But I think it's...
You're right. But it's not going to be effective. It's not going to...
I actually still believe it's possible.
Sunday is not going to be Dali because it changes. Once the reform is implemented, then maybe it can happen. But right now, but it's very interesting, and wow, I'm so excited because now I think after 2012 we got very mature in many aspects. And this maturity is taking us now to make things more consistent and step by step, and penetrating to different groups and different spaces and with different kin, and it's very exciting. Okay, so now
it's exciting what you're doing.
I'm not doing it's a Resonance Stars work.
It's really exciting what you're doing. I'm sorry.
This is not my.
Cut off.
I say that this is a Resonance Stars work. Agent 228.
A resonant.
Yeah.
Resonant Star. 228.
Yeah.
Meaning that's you.
Yeah.
What is your pin, Flavia?
228.
You're 228.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So.
You're double John Lennon.
Yeah.
You're double John Lennon.
Double John Lennon.
Can help it note.
Yeah.
No, really, I appreciate what you're doing. We appreciate what you're doing.
I appreciate also with everything that every king makes in order to put all this together, because this is a big picture. Each one is a painter, they're painting a little. So we have just to get the whole picture together and find how one piece can work with the other piece, so we can make this big picture together. So that's this. Okay. So something you want to say now for the king to hear, like a message or something special you want to transmit, or something else to be finishing this session?
I guess, the theme is pretty clear. My hope is that the main hope I really have with all kin that are involved in all of this information and this 13 moon calendar is that we don't just accept the importance of the 13-month, 28-day aspect, that we actually use it. That, like, real calendar change, we talk about how we would get the Gregorian together, but within our own 13 moon community, we really have to be the change we wish to see. And what I mean by that is, like, we literally need to start communicating by a 13-month, 28-day count. Is every time we use the 260 count and the Gregorian count, we really ought to also be using the 13-month, 28-day count. And so, and not just in writing, but it's just in our own communication. The more we speak in terms of this system together, just like we speak by the 260, the more it starts to really become a part of us. What's part of our communication is going to be part of how we think and live. So if we don't really communicate by this system, it's not going to be a part of how we think and live. And I really don't want it to be sounding like I'm doing this. I'm saying, I can't just think about it on my own. I pretty much have one main person that I communicate according to the 1328 with, and that's my partner, Jasmine. And there's no one in the world that I know that's more dedicated than her. So I just want it to be sort of, we start to build this nucleus, I mean, that's why it's really beautiful for me to see that someone like you, who's been as pure as can be in this whole movement all along, understands that this is really important, without seeing it as like I'm just finding only that important. Like, the whole thing is important, but we just have to start from the nucleus. So we have to build that nucleus. It can't just be something that we just imagine exists. We actually have to communicate by it, and it's kind of like nurturing a seed. The seed's been planted. Wotan planted the seed, but
yes. And now is the moment that
the only way we can actually feel like I'm sounding critical.
It's the moment that each one will grab their own mission in this to make it something, the whole. So it's very important.
Right.
You took this mission to make this, and it's very important, self-existing dog, the form of the love. And somebody else will take other step. I took this mission to launch this electronic collective, because we have to find a way to put everybody together. So
Yeah.
We are all part of the same spell. We are all in the same mission. The Rainbow Bridge in the earth, right?
Right.
I'm very excited because there's no place now for divisions. There's no place for the ego. There's no place for judging the work of somebody else. Each one has to take their own part and to do the best in their own part. And we all have to recognize the part of the other as important. And this is how I see. And I'm so glad this is happening now. And today is Magnetic Dragon, and this is the pulse.
I say, right.
This is the
unifying.
Pulse. And now, look what happened. I just received by mail, by, not email, the mail, an envelope.
Snail mail.
Envelope with 20 magnets. 20. Somebody send it to me. 20 magnets. And the magnets, they don't separate. And they are 20. 20 seals. It's incredible. I just got this now. 5 minutes before I started with you, I was thinking, what is the sign for Magnetic Dragon? And then this happened. So we are magnets. We are magnetizing all this. Thank you very much. In Lak'ech.
Thank you very much. In Lak'ech, Alakin.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad it's happening.
Thank you, Flavia. So am I. I hope we can actually come together in physical presence sometime soon.
We will extend this to presence gatherings, and it's going to happen in different places, and we are going to push together. This is we are creating this galactic seed that is going to work with no separations, and we're going to meet all of us to meditate and to pause and to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flavia. It's a pleasure.
Lak'ech.
I'll see you soon. Alakin.
Doggy.